So after several weeks of work, we are finally there. All the parts are made. They have been cleaned and polished. Well, they've been cleaned and polished as much as I clean and polish anything. I'm quite lazy when it comes to finishing off metal parts. I'm okay polishing brass boilers, but anything else I tend to get bored with. So they are not perfect. They have not been polished to a mirror finish or anything, but it's cleaned up quite nicely. The flywheel particularly cleaned up well, but then of course you can do that on the lathe, so that's easy. Apart from making the hole for the axle in the flywheel too big, the only other stuff up I made was I did actually end up making 5 in the end of these little pivot screws, because the first two I made for the connecting rod there, I forgot about the washers, so I made them too short. So I had to make a couple more. So this was one of my first attempts. But other than that, very few stuff up, so I'm quite pleased really. Obviously, we had some problems with casting of the aluminium. I probably did it wrong. I'm sure people will tell me how I should have done it. But it wasn't bad enough to worry too much about it. And obviously this is not going into an aircraft jet engine, so we don't really have to worry too much about the integrity of the aluminium. So yeah, so it's all done. I've put some green felt blaze on the underside to stop it from floating around. So of the base, I was going to originally go with a wooden base, but I decided in the end I preferred the idea of having an aluminium base to keep it all with it just ties up nicely with all the rest of the aluminium parts. So let's put it together and see if the thing actually works. Wow, there it is all together. It does actually look quite good. I'm quite pleased with how it turned out in the end. I mean, as a project, there's some good machining operations that you do in this. So yeah, I think it's from a machining point of view, it's quite a good one. The only real thing I found, problem I found with the drawings was the fact that the main lever here does need to be spaced out from the main support in order to get it to line up with the crank. But that's very easy to do. You just make a spacer in a longer pivot screw. But yeah, it turned out okay, and say got to use the Sherline quite a lot on this one, which was great, and also proved to me that how useful a machine the Sherline actually is going to be. It really came into its own. It had no problem with any of the machining, even the steel for the crank. It managed that absolutely fine. So I'm well pleased with that. That was a damn good investment. So yeah, there it is, the Finger Engine in all its glory. So I guess the next question is, does it work? Well, let's see. So does it work? Well, yes, it does after a fashion. I find it very difficult to actually use this thing. There's a certain technique to it, and once you get it going, you can normally keep it going. But as you can see, it's quite difficult to keep it going. Whoops. There's definitely a technique to doing this, which I obviously don't have. So there you go. You can see that it does work. I think you certainly... I haven't got this technique. I think it's just a matter of hours of practice, basically. A little bit of Rocket 40 on there. So... I think it really is. You really need to get the rhythm on this thing right to keep it running. And just the right amount of pressure. It is addictive. As you can see, it is addictive. That's about the longest I think I've actually done it for. But yeah, it's great. It was a great project to do. I really enjoyed doing it. There was lots of good machining stuff to produce this in the build. I think it would benefit from a heavier flywheel. I think if the flywheel was brass, it would just keep the momentum going longer. And also, I think possibly my little finger pad here is a bit too heavy, because it does. This is quite a heavy piece, the finger pad, so it does tend to push the lever down. But yeah, no, it you know, it's it definitely does what it's supposed to do. Okay, that's definitely the longest I've had it going. Anyway, you get the point. So that's it for the finger engine. It was a great project, kept me amused during the lockdown, which was, you know, the whole point. I hope you enjoyed watching me make this thing, and you know, it just shows you what you can do with in a very small workshop with you know, relatively few you know, machine tools, a tiny little modeler's milling machine and a relatively small lathe. So as I said, I hope you've enjoyed the whole project. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.